all of the hurt from the past that you showed. And I know you want me back. And I know you want it
back. All right, everybody, welcome back, Latino Free Minds. It is Tuesday, April 4th, 2023. If you've been watching the news today, you probably saw that Trump flew to New York, turned himself in, got arraigned, got all these charges, and I think he's the first ex-president to ever get indicted or charged with any felonies. So that's kind of what's been going on today. And it's kind of one of the things we wanted to talk about and maybe give a different perspective as far as, you know, basically what we think about it and how we think, you know, how this is playing out.
Yeah. Excuse me. Yeah. You know, one of the things that we always talk about us, you know, and talking about all these different things that are happening in the world is not get sucked in and manipulated with what they want us to see, what they're showing us, and where we should be looking. Mm-hmm. So, you know, if they're making all kinds of noise in front of us, we need to, you know, look to our left, look to our right, look up, look down, look behind us, and see what's going on, because they're trying to distract us from a lot of things. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that we were talking about is Nancy Pelosi already gave us the name of the technique that they're using right now. Mm-hmm. And she was so smart that she did it in front of cameras and in front of people. And it's called a smear campaign. Mm-hmm. So guess what? What year are we in again?
2023, about to get into a new voting cycle.
In 2024?
Yep.
Trump is already making waves, and, you know, he's up on the polls and everything. So we knew that this was going to start, you know, anytime soon here. Mm-hmm. So I wonder if this is going to be dragged out until 2024.
I think what I saw,
I think there's a strong chance.
Yeah, I think what I saw was the district attorney, what's his name, Alvin Bragg. I believe he requested the trial to continue January 2024. If I'm not mistaken, I read that somewhere. I had to look it up. You can fact check it later, but pretty sure that's what I saw. So yeah, they're
perfect timing.
Yeah, and that's when because what I read was that's when basically the Republican primaries are in like full swing. So just like right in the middle of that.
Perfect timing.
Yeah.
Perfect timing. So we've talked about the patterns. They use the same patterns. Nancy Pelosi told us smear campaigns, how they work. Mm-hmm. You put out a story. Can be true. Could not be true. Media picks it up. It gets blasted on all the headlines.
Yeah. That's that mockingbird thing.
Yep. Mm-hmm. So we're right in the middle of it. And the problem that they're going to have is that this sets a precedent.
Yeah.
You know, is that any politician, even to a president, is fair game now. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, like we said, right now they're going to drag it out. So we're going to have to wait quite a while before we really see this thing heating up. We're only in April. Mm-hmm. I mean, the year's flying by, but it's still early April.
Yeah.
So we're going to have to wait until early 2024, possibly to see what starts coming out.
Yeah, like you said, you know, it's a new president, and it's a bad one. You know, it's to the point where it's like, you know, there's, how could I put it? It's like there's no turning back from this. You know, you did it. Now it's kind of it's gotta play out, and the consequences will be the consequences of these actions, right? And how it affects the future of whoever's in power, like you're saying right now. And, you know, kind of like we were saying earlier was, you know, if somebody really committed a crime and you have the facts and all that, then, you know, it is what it is. Because I think I had brought up about how even when Trump was in office and he would say about Hillary, lock her up, and all that, he never really did it because I think, either he didn't have like the full concrete evidence, or like you were saying, if you're gonna do it, you do it right because you have what you need to play it out. You don't just kind of throw stuff on the wall and see what's gonna stick.
Well, the risk is too big. The risk is too big if you go after someone and you're not prepared. You don't have all your facts,
Hmm.
and all your evidence in order, or the court system in order. You got to think about this. So we had Obama, we had the Bush, which was a straight up rhino. He might as well have been a Democrat.
Hmm.
And before that, you had Clinton, right?
Yeah.
So how many decades is that? One, two, three, like basically 3 decades
Hmm.
of the same party basically running, or the same corrupt people.
Yeah, the Uniparty.
Yep, there you go. Um, Running everything. So that means that 3 decades worth of judges, appointed judges, had been out there.
Hmm.
So you think that if Trump, gets, throw some charges at the Clintons or anybody you pick, they're gonna stick once they go to court. We've seen, verdicts that are unexplainable. I mean, it defies logic. It defies reason, and
Hmm.
that's why.
Yeah.
So, what did Trump do in his presidency?
Yeah, I mean, now
A,
that you said that, he appointed the most judges, if I
a
remember
record,
record.
more than more than Obama combined
Mm,
in his 2 terms. Right off the top of my head. So he had a record, and he
yeah.
appointed a bunch of those judges. And what they're distracting us from right now is that there's a lot of court cases that Trump is winning. You look at the election fraud that happened in Arizona and all the other places.
Hmm.
Quietly, they're winning those cases as they start going up higher in the courts.
Oh, okay. Hmm. Hmm.
So they don't put that out in the news.
Yeah.
They don't want us to know that. This is the distraction
Yeah,
to that.
and I think because all this indictment and all that stem from the hush money, right? From the Stormy Daniels. Most of these charges stem from that. But as we said, I think we said that last time we talked, was she's already admitted or said, or there's a signed
Mhm.
document her saying it didn't happen. And Trump's already won several cases against her where she has to pay him. And I think today, while he was in the arraignment, the Ninth Circuit Court uh, basically gave him another victory against Stormy Daniels, and she owes him another 120,000. So the Ninth Circuit Court is probably one of the most liberal courts in the country.
Used to be
Yeah.
because of those same appointments that Trump put in there. It
Hmm.
kind of leveled out the playing field. But you're right. It was, if not the most corrupt, based on what they told us in the news and the verdicts that they um, delivered. They were like one of the most corrupt, from my knowledge.
Yeah. Yeah. So it is it stems, like you're saying, it stems to its election cycle, and it's a smear campaign, because that's something that me personally I thought of. It's like none of this is gonna stick, but it's gonna be useful for them to use for the election. So in a sense, it's like they're interfering in the election, but without doing it. So how could you put it? So
It's not discreet.
yeah.
At this point, it's not discreet. I'm gonna tell you why. So, but before I do, with the Stormy Daniels and rehashing or going back to this whole hush money thing with this Bragg's indictment, is Mueller How long did Mueller's investigation last? How many years?
I want to say 3 to 4 years, something like that.
Okay,
Probably.
so let's just say 3 years.
Mhm.
How many millions of dollars? Like 40 million, or I forget how much it was.
Yeah, I
It was
think
a lot of
yeah,
millions.
something like that. Something like that.
Okay, so 3 years, around $40 million, and they couldn't find anything on Trump. So this guy is going to go back to the same thing that Mueller was looking for after $40 million, but this guy found what they missed.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's hard to believe.
Yeah, yeah.
So, um, one of the things that we have to point out is, we were talking about patterns, is that Hillary Clinton, with her campaign, quietly, and a lot of people don't know about this, got fined. Why did she get fined by the FEC?
It was.
Basically interfered with the election. How did she do that? So in court, she with presenting evidence, they found that she paid Fusion GPS to get the dossier, the PP dossier.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So that is legit election interference, because that dossier, they used it to get FISA warrants
Yep.
to go after Trump, right? And there was leaks left and right. And our buddy Adam Schiff was one of the guys leaking the majority of that stuff
Mm-hmm.
right around the election cycle, right?
Yeah.
That's election interference. So she got a fine.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the same thing that they're indicting Trump for, hush money, so that it wouldn't sway voters away from him during an election cycle.
Mm-hmm.
Now they want to arrest him. They want to throw him in jail.
Yeah.
What's the pattern there?
It's that double standard. One side gets away with, at this point they get away with whatever they want, or they only hold one side to account. You know what I mean?
What about a government that that attacks their political enemies?
That's straight communism.
There you go. We talked about it a couple episodes ago.
Mm-hmm.
Definition of communism:
Yeah.
throw them in jail, throw away the key, shut them up.
Yeah.
We're getting our person in. We're going to maintain power.
I mean,
Straight up.
to me, it's also for them an admission. They know that they suck. That what they've put in place, and what they've done to the country these past 2 years, with them in power, I'm sure they can feel it, right? Like you were saying, and I believe it too. It's like we're not the minority, we're the majority, and I think
It's an illusion.
they can hear it, right? Because I think
I sent you something on Instagram that I saw. It was perfect.
Mm-hmm.
It showed the majority, and it's
yeah, it's red.
the people,
Mm-hmm.
and then the media. What they're showing you, we're the minority.
Yeah, yeah.
It's an illusion, man. And you guys were kind of talking about it on last episode with Christian.
Mm-hmm.
Is you guys? I think you were saying like, oh man, I don't see this ending. I don't see this stopping.
Mm-hmm.
What are we gonna do? There's like no real fix to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking about that, and I go, they're losing.
Mm.
They're losing because all of this is happening.
Mm.
You guys were pointing out like that Buddha. How do you pronounce his name?
Pete Buttigieg.
There you go, Pete Buttigieg. However you pronounce his last name. So, I think it was Christian was saying like, used to pick like people, the best of the best,
Mm-hmm.
the top of the top, right?
Yeah.
And to put into these political positions and in directors and in charge of all kinds of different departments.
Mhm.
And the reality is that they have a bunch of weak people like we have right now for a reason. There's a specific reason for that.
Mhm.
And that's because they can be controlled, and they are being controlled.
Yeah.
Do you really think that Fetterman, he can, like, what was it that he had a
I think he had a
severe depression?
yeah.
Severe depression.
Yeah.
He just won a major governorship.
It's the senator. He's a senator. Senate race.
Oh, senator. My bad.
Even worse because he's gonna be making laws.
Even worse, he's a damn senator. But he fell into a deep depression right after that.
Yeah.
And can you imagine? Well, anyways, so there's all these weak people that are in these positions of power.
Mm-hmm.
Do you really think that they're making the decisions?
Nah, hell no. Nope.
Hell no.
And I think that's what I'm saying. Like, and I think they can feel that the people know. You know what I mean? If the people didn't know before, obviously, and maybe and that's how we ended up with Biden. Let's just say, quote unquote. If they didn't know then, they know now. You know what I mean? And I think that's why they're doing all this, because they know when 2024 comes around, they're screwed. And I think them doing this just screws them even more. I think they're really hoping that they get Trump, right? I think I saw the maximum was 136 years in jail, right? Or prison, I mean. And it's like, I feel like we know, right? This is all BS. But sometimes I feel like they feel that they're gonna get it. You know what I mean? Like,
it's game over, man. They're going
they're going all in.
They're going all in.
7-2.
They're pushing all their chips inside. They're going for the Hail Mary. Everybody go deep.
What is it? 7-2, the worst card, the worst hand.
Yeah, that's your hand. 7 deuce.
They're going for a straight.
Yeah. They're going for and they know it's game over, dude.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it's the optimist in me that sees all of this stuff, but I pay attention to patterns.
Mm-hmm.
Once you start getting to a certain age and you live through a bunch of stuff, you start remembering stuff and you start connecting dots. And these are straight patterns that you were being shown right now. Well, I mean, that you can identify.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'll start explaining to you why I think that the people know that it's all a bunch of BS. So,
Mm-hmm.
Gloria and I, we went to a trip to New York
Yeah.
last week. So last Thursday, Friday, throughout the weekend, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I wake up on Friday morning and the news is on. Now I don't watch the news like regular, fake news.
Yeah.
So it's on, and we're changing, getting ready, and stuff like that. And we're in New York, so I'm like, all right, cool. Let me see what the weather's like, and what they're talking about.
Yeah.
So they're talking about the indictment. They're talking about the DA. In New York news, a New York news anchor of the local news there goes,
Mm-hmm.
that it's a politically driven indictment.
Mm-hmm.
He said that himself.
In New York, yeah.
In New York.
Mm.
In New York. And I was like, oh, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
So, and then being out there, granted, we were like in Times Square and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
in that area, but we kind of drove around a little bit, and to my surprise, it's nothing like what I expected.
Mm-hmm.
As far as New York goes, I thought it was going to be a freaking San Francisco.
Yeah.
It's not a San Francisco.
Okay.
And we did have a little taste of a small areas and pockets of New York.
Uh-huh.
But we did jump into the subway and stuff like that, and people were very courteous. You had some people that you asked for help, and they were like, "Yeah, you go over there, and that's it."
Mm-hmm.
Very dry, very, whatever. But for the most part, people heard, hey, that you were looking for directions. They offered help and stuff like that, something that I wasn't really expecting.
Mm,
So people were, courteous, nice, and stuff like that. And
that's good.
so, I started thinking back to the first episode that we did.
Mm-hmm.
What was one of the places where we got a lot of hits?
I think New York, Chicago, Florida, California, and either New Mexico or Arizona. I think those were like the top 5, but I don't remember.
Yeah, Florida
Texas,
too, though, right?
Texas. So
Texas,
Texas,
okay.
Florida, New York, Chicago, and California.
So New York didn't make any sense to me whatsoever. Remember we were tripping out on
and
that?
Chicago.
Yeah. So we get there, right? We got there to New York, and we get a cab,
Mhm.
and it was someone from the DR, Dominican Republic.
Okay, we had that too when we looked at the international one. But go ahead.
So we start talking, and he's like, "Hey, you look Latino. Like, what are you?" And he's like, "Oh, do you talk Spanish?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I talk Spanish." So we started talking Spanish and stuff like that, and he starts chopping it up and everything. We start talking about the pandemic a little bit here and there.
Uh-huh.
Dude, it's such an illusion, and this is my confirmation from New York. What I got, the little bit that I got from New York,
Yeah.
they were not about the freaking COVID, man, the pandemic. And so I'm telling you about this taxi driver, right?
Right.
But as we're walking through the streets of Manhattan, New York, Brooklyn, and all of that, shout out to all those people because they're hella cool,
Nice.
is that I'm walking by and I hear people talking in Spanish.
Mhm.
And another person in Spanish. Dude, we rule the freaking United States now. And I wasn't expecting that.
Así es.
No lo
man.
esperaba.
No.
So that's my confirmation to you that even in New York, it's an illusion
Mm-hmm.
that we are the minority. We're the majority.
Yeah.
People that think like us, where we say, I'm not just going to believe what the government tells me and I'm going to roll with it. There's something wrong with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and
they compare New York to California a lot. And I'm sorry, dude,
it's not the thing.
It's an illusion that they're the majority.
Well, that's good to hear because, over here, like you said, here in California, right? Like you think of New York, you kind of, in a sense, kind of compare it in your mind or you would imagine in San Francisco. Like I would myself, I'd probably think the exact same thing. But obviously, just kind of speaking of New York, it's like, I've never been there, but you obviously see it in movies all the time. You just see how great of a tourist attraction it could be. But also you kind of see the political party, right, that has the control over there. So, like you kind of equate it to San Francisco, but I mean, it's good to hear that it's not like that, because that's somewhere that, yeah, like if we get an opportunity, I would love to go to New York to check it out. You know what I mean?
I recommend it. No, I never had an interest of going over there. And luckily Gloria did.
Nice.
And she's always been the more adventurous one. Well, I guess you could say adventurous when, wanting to travel and stuff like that. You leave it up to me and, I'll stay here and do something else here. But,
Yeah.
but that's, what I love about her. One of the things that I love about her.
Nice.
And I like it. And I'm glad that we did go because I would definitely plan another trip back out there for sure.
Cool.
Especially after the experience that I had.
Nice.
But, yeah, one thing about over there is they're really, you go to San Francisco,
Mhm.
New York is way more patriotic. Yeah. Dude, we were standing by the Twin Tower Memorial.
Nice. That looks nice.
People just staring into I don't know if you've seen pictures of it, but
Yeah.
it's like a inverted like fountain type
Yeah,
of
it's
thing.
going in. The water's going in there.
People are just standing there, dude, and we were talking about this before too in another episode. Is, they're trying to compare J6 to 9/11. You get out of my face with that.
Yeah.
People are standing around that monument, and their face, you could see it written all over their face. There's like a deep, like, sadness,
Hmm.
like I can't even explain.
Yeah.
On people's faces, you see some people, tearing up. I don't know if they had family members or whatever the case may be. I got emotional just being there.
Dude,
Um,
that's one place definitely that I want to go check out. You know what I mean? Because I think, like we talked about it before, it's like we saw that play out. You know what I mean? When
yeah.
we were a little younger, we saw it playing out on TV, and just the devastation of the day. Like we said, is just, even though you're not there, you feel for all the people that suffered, and I can imagine being there, and you probably would kind of feel that sadness all over again, because knowing the amount of people that lost their lives that day. And yeah, to compare it to J6, it's like that's an insult. Like, any Kamala Harris should have been like disqualified from government as soon as she said that. Like I said, you lose your position, you're out. Like, that's terrible, man. Those comparisons, they're trying to prove a point, but it gets to a certain point where it's just absolutely dumb. And man,
They, they're not worth the breath, but I mean, that's what we're doing here is we're talking,
mhm.
but they're,
it's
you said disqualified, but I'm like, they should be just banned from holding any political office, man. It's like,
mhm,
someone says like that, and it's like, you know what, you're out of here. You're, um what do they call that? You're, um impeached. You're impeached out of your, uh position that you hold in whatever political, um level that you're at. You're just
mhm,
automatically impeached. Get out of there.
mhm.
You shouldn't even, those words shouldn't even be coming out of anybody's mouth.
Ever.
Don't equate it to anything. It's its own separate thing, and it's bigger than anybody can imagine. You look at the area where those buildings were at. It's in a it's in short distances from other buildings, and
Mhm.
everything's just crammed in there together. I can't even imagine being around in that area and seeing that rumble.
Mhm.
It, man, it's
Yeah,
got to
because I
make you
mean,
sick to your
as you
stomach.
say that too, as you say that right now, that comparison to me gets even worse, because not only the people that died, but all the people that suffered through sicknesses, illnesses because of all that smoke and all that stuff. Like, J6 is nowhere near, not even close. Shouldn't even be mentioned. Shouldn't be in the same thought, let alone mentioned.
Mm-mm, absolutely not, man. And then the surveillance, footage comes out of J6, and then it's like, if that wasn't a slap in the face already,
Yeah,
the video comes out. Now that dude,
the shaman was
the
freed.
shaman, they release him and stuff like that.
Hmm.
It just goes to show you, there goes that smear campaign, man. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Patterns. Why don't they want that video out? They're transparent. Show all the footage. You want to be transparent? Let's be transparent. Show all the footage.
And
Footage
that's
is.
that's one thing though, like, that I feel the administration, Trump's administration, was. I thought they were pretty transparent. They had what's her name? Well, Sarah Sanders at first, and then Kayleigh McEnany. Like, when
Mm,
when they would answer questions, like, they would get bombarded. They were getting yelled at all the time, and they were prepared. They were answering questions. They were telling, you know, everybody what was happening, what the president was going to do, this, and that.
Well,
And
what's easier than telling the truth? You don't have to.
the
It's
fact,
like when you tell lies, you got to remember what that lie was for that lie, for the other lie, and it covered the other lie for the other lie, and you lose track of it. It's like,
yeah,
whoa, wait a minute. So when you tell the truth,
yeah. And with this administration, it's like there's, questions aren't answered. You know, um, I don't see the same type of, how could you put it?
do you have the come on, man? Uh,
I don't
Come
see the
on, man.
same type of like the yelling in the press room, right?
Mhm.
So it's like I don't know, like the transparency was definitely different. This administration either either they're hiding a lot, or like we said, the only other option is they all suck at their jobs because they're not the best of the best.
And that's on purpose. Yeah. And that's on purpose.
Yeah.
Someone would go, why would they do that?
Mhm.
So they can control them and we could hit down this abyss, you know, government resembling communism,
Mhm.
going after political opponents. That's why.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what it is. That's the smear, man. That's the go after your political opponent. It's it's communism. It is what it is, you know. It, and it's here. It's like we've said before, right? People come to this country to avoid all that, and today is an example of it. You know, it being here, like it's close. You know what I mean? The precedent that it's setting is is not a good one.
It could, but what if I was to tell you that it could be a good one?
I mean, yeah, I can see how it could be, because these same politicians, these same people, you can probably easily do the exact same thing, but have concrete evidence. Like for example, I know he's not a politician, but he's the president's son. And let's use the sons as an example. You get Hunter Biden and you get Don Jr. If that laptop would have been Don Jr.'s, like you were saying earlier, right? They would have went after him hard. He'd probably be locked up
But
now.
they being in jail, both of
Yeah.
them.
But Hunter,
Right?
you know, you got all
Get
the
out of jail
evidence
part. Mm,
and nothing, man. It's like,
yeah. So look, this is the bottom line: is when you go after your political opponents and you have all these losers in positions of power, appointed positions. They're not elected; they're selected.
mhm,
Um, Everybody knows that Joe Biden did not get how many 80 something million votes,
81 million.
81 million votes, more popular than Obama.
Mhm,
And you and I know that Obama on his first term was easily, we weren't alive at the time of, Kennedy or anything like that,
mhm.
but he was the most popular president in
Yeah,
probably since Kennedy.
yeah, and I remember that because he would have the big crowds and all that. And it's funny,
Mhm.
and it's crazy because in 2020, that's exactly what Trump looked like. Trump had the big crowds. We're going through the pandemic and he's having rallies full of people. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And it was that same Obama like vibe, if you will, as far as the how people were, what do you call it? Were showing up, right?
Mhm.
And then you had Joe Biden in fucking school gyms with 6 foot circles. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And somehow he ends up with 81 million votes. It's like, yeah, it makes zero sense, because even Trump, I think he gained 6 or 7 million something like that. Like he
Mhm.
gained a lot of votes too.
Before his first go around, his
Yeah.
first term.
Mm-hmm.
So the reason I was saying that is that, look, kind of like how I said with the Second Amendment, we have to be brutally honest. The Second Amendment exists to protect ourselves, for the people to protect themselves against a tyrannical government, period.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay? So we have to be brutally honest about that. Okay? We
Mm-hmm.
have to be brutally honest when we talk and say that the elections have been rigged. Straight up.
Mm-hmm.
There's evidence. We talked about the machines. With today's technology, they should not be having glitches. The reason that they wanted the computers in there is because they were fail-proof.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're failing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So those same machines they used in Venezuela, Brazil, and all kinds of other countries, okay,
Mm-hmm.
where they have communist-like governments too,
Mm-hmm.
right? So let's be brutally honest and say that these elections in I don't know how many years are not honest.
Mm-hmm.
That's why those people get into position. We talked about this at probably the first episode that we ever did.
Mm-hmm.
The people that are going to rise to power are going to the fastest. The people that are going to rise to power the fastest
Mm-hmm.
are the non-ethical people, because they're going to do some dirty
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay. So going back to, going your political opponents, is that because of, these elections not being honest and people being appointed, not elected, that's how they can attack their political opponents. You got the 3-letter agencies going out there,
Mm-hmm.
going after people. We all know they are being caught. Twitter files have proven a lot of that.
Mm-hmm.
And so you got that. You've got the judges. You've got all the political people that are being appointed, all the way from president down to governors to senators to congressmen, district attorneys. So, how, do people know that Soros funded a group that funds the DA that's going after Trump?
Mm-hmm.
No, a lot of people don't do that, but that's what they do. They don't fund them directly. They fund a group that funds that person. That's how they keep their name out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're being called out for it. That's why I'm telling you is that I see the patterns, and I see that they're losing control because they're being exposed.
Mm-hmm.
Before, we never talked about this.
Yeah. Yeah.
It wasn't out there.
Yeah.
So that's how the power is gained.
Mm-hmm.
So, the power to go after your political opponents anyways.
Yeah. And that's the thing. And it's like my whole, like 100% what you said, but like my whole thing is like, they know they're getting exposed and they still do it. You know what I mean? Like they still got the balls to
That's how stupid they think we are.
exactly. It's like they still got the balls to go through with it, knowing how much the people, like we said before, with technology, we're way more informed, instantly than we were back in the days, with Twitter, social media and all that. Like a story could get debunked in seconds and it spreads fast. So that to me is like the crazy part still, is how they know all that, because I know they know, and part of me knowing that they know is believing also that that's why they do it, because they're trying to do whatever they can so that they don't lose the power that they know they're gonna lose. If it's a fair and free election, they know they're gonna lose in 2024, and they're gonna lose badly.
It's not even close. It wasn't even close all the other years.
Mm-hmm.
But the elections weren't fair. We had the pandemic where mail-in ballots, ballot harvesting, blah blah blah, this and that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, if we play that game, they're down to play dirty. If you're ethical, you're not down to play dirty.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to lose. So, what we need to do is get smart, which we have been. So, for example, Lori Lightfoot didn't get reelected.
Mm-hmm.
Her ass is booted.
Yep.
And, there's other people that have been bowing out. There's a lot of resignations. They see the writing on the wall
Mm-hmm.
and they're getting out of the way. And that's for the same reason that you're talking about. It's like, they're like, hot potato, I ain't touching it. I'm walking away. And
Yep.
to your point, they see it coming. They feel it. They know it. They're being booed, when they go talk and do presentations now and stuff like that. There was an interesting one.
Mm-hmm.
DeSantis. He was speaking. Was it that he was speaking, and Trump supporters were just out there with Trump flags?
Mm-hmm.
Like, seriously, it's like when you have a backing like that, and you're supposed to be the minority.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Yeah. And that's why, like, kind of going in what you're talking about. That's why also local elections are super important, because whoever you have locally, because we have federalism, right? So, which basically means that when it comes to elections, each state runs its own election, like
Mm-hmm.
as far as counting and setting all that up. Each state does it on its own. And so that's why the local elections matter, because, for example, the Secretary of State for your state is the person in charge of the elections. So, depending on who you vote for, because they're obviously they have their party preferences, right? And you can tell, I think we said this on episode 1 or 2. It's like, if it doesn't list their party, go search their Twitter, their Instagram. You're going to see what kind of stuff they post. You'll get an idea where they align themselves. But the Secretary of State, their role is the elections. And, if you have a Secretary of State that's super pro Democrat and all that, they're likely going to have mail-in voting. They're going to have voting periods that are, months long instead of just that day. It'll take, like, for example, here in California, right? I think you could vote like a month before election day. And you can mail it in. You have to postmark it by election date. And then it takes them 14 days to receive everything, and then the final count is delivered like a month after that, the official count. It's like, that's because that's what we have here, right? So
It's the same system to cheating, is that they get a heads up on what their political opponents, whether it's whatever side it may be.
mm-hmm.
So they get a heads up on what their political opponent number looks like, and they're like, all right, cool, we know how much we have to get now.
Yeah.
And then that's what these courts are going on. These court hearings, that's what that's about.
Yeah. And that's the whole thing too in Arizona, right? Katie Hobbs was the Secretary of State running for governor. Katie Hobbs was in charge of the elections in Arizona. So it turns out that Katie Hobbs wins. Like, come on, like, it should have been one of those where it should be, if you're the Secretary of State and you're going to run for governor, you cannot be responsible for the election. I'm sorry, like, that's one of those where what's that word they say?
Conflict of interest.
Conflict of interest. You got to recuse yourself. You remove yourself from that, because, Katie Hobbs, being the Secretary of State, is going to put things in place that is going to make it easier for her to win and harder for Carrie Lake to win. But like you said, right, you get all those lawsuits, and at the end of the day, all that stuff will come out, little by little. But hey, like you said, they're having the victories there.
Yeah. Time is funny that way. In time, truth comes out.
Mm-hmm. 100%.
So, we'll see where all of this is going. But where I was going with, with them setting this precedent of indicting presidents, it's kind of interesting because we got the current president in a lot of hot water right now.
Yeah.
This is something that isn't being reported in the mainstream media and stuff like that, but they're auditing bank accounts.
Mm.
Maybe they'll audit taxes, which they set up president with President Trump.
Yeah.
Okay. You see where I'm going? So it's like, you know, it could be a good thing. Maybe some of these ex-presidents do need to go to jail. And if there's enough evidence, maybe they will get thrown in jail.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know?
And that's what, like, when I was talking to Christian last time, I was saying it's like, at the end of the day, and I think you had said it the episode before, but it's kind of on the same lines, which is one day you're going to have something where, like, it's on your side and you're going to be happy, right? But
yeah, we were talking about the Prop 8 stuff.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're going to be happy about it, right? You're going to be happy Trump got indicted and all that stuff. Fine. But when it turns around and then it gets you, you've set the standard. Now you got to live with it.
Mm-hmm.
So, people are gonna, learn the hard way.
That's what I'm saying. Everybody sees it as a bad thing right now, but maybe Trump is licking his chops and going, okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
It's, you guys are doing this to me right now.
Yeah.
We'll see in time. Remember, time is a funny thing.
Yeah.
So, I just hope it doesn't take too much time. But, and, going back to the, lock her up whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody that thought that he was just going to roll up in his first term and start locking people up like that, that's not realistic, man. He said it, draining the swamp. It was deeper, it was wider than what he originally thought.
Mm.
So certain things have to be put in place.
Yeah. And you see too, and you see now that he's gone, like you see the people that are in the swamp even more clearly, like for example, Mitch McConnell, Lindsey Graham, and like we said last time, opportunists, right? And you can tell, yeah, they're part of the swamp.
Yeah, for sure. And a lot of people used to ask me, like, why did I support Trump? And I always said, look, if you were to write down values, if you go on the conservative side or liberal side, like Democrat and Republican, I would end up more on the Republican side, on the conservative side.
Mm-hmm.
That's a given by a lot. I'd end up on that side.
Yeah.
Just to make that clear. But I was always like, two-party system. It's a two-headed dragon or snake, whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
And because it was one and the same for the longest time. And I didn't believe anything either side said. But what caught my attention was that breaking the pattern was that both sides weren't just going after each other, right? Left and right. Left and right was going against Trump. And I was scratching my head and I was like, why are they both going after him?
Yeah.
And then I started looking for like patterns and stuff like that. And I was like, dude, and it was the real, well, to me, it was like the real deal. It's like, he's not a politician. He doesn't belong to either side. Because if you look at Trump's history, he was, he had TV shows. He was always mingling with fashion,
Hollywood.
Hollywood and all those people in those industries, right?
Mhm.
So you would go, oh, straight left. He's left all the way. And everybody loved him, you know. Celebrities, they would rap about him and stuff like that, wanting to
Mhm.
be like him and stuff like that.
A lot of Donald Trump songs.
Yep. And then he ran for president as a Republican, and it all freaking went out the window.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I mean, it's yeah, that's true. Both parties had something against him, and I think it's because he knew how they operated. He's probably seen the both sides to it. He's probably benefited from both sides in
he
his,
said it. He
his
said it
career
in,
as a
in one
businessman,
of
right?
the debates.
Yeah, exactly. And then the whole, even the tax code thing, they don't change it because, like he said, your friends use it too. And it's like, yeah, exactly. So that's, he can expose a lot. That's
But
why.
that's the beauty. That's the beauty about the truth.
Hmm.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah,
He's debating someone, and he's like, "Oh, you're not paying. You're going through loopholes in the taxes." Yeah, I am.
yeah.
He's saying the truth. It's like, what
Because
can
I'm,
you say?
because I'm smart.
Yeah, and it's like, well, you guys could have changed them. Your man was in office for I don't know how long until he got you know
Yeah.
booted, and then your other man, your boy Obama was there too.
Obama had a super majority. So,
Yeah,
you know,
they
there's
could have
that too.
changed.
They could have done a lot. All this immigration, gun control, all that crap they're always, when it comes to election time, and they're yapping about, when it came to it, when they had the power to do it, nothing. Nothing at all. And I
Mm-mm.
think that's the main point where I think people need to see, right? Because I think we see it. We see the same thing repeating itself with the same promises, the same issues. But when it comes to it, all this time, all these years, I'm I'm gonna be 37. Yeah, no, that's how old I am. I don't even know how old I am. And you've been hearing the same thing. None of it has gotten quote unquote fixed. You know what I mean? And in my whole lifetime, as far as quality of life, where things seemed easier, like where the country was actually doing great, was Trump's first 3 years, and then they threw the pandemic at him, and that kind of messed up his last year. But the Trump presidency was like for every American was an ideal situation, and it's just crazy to me that we're at this point, and hopefully, like we said many times, eyes are opening up. Um, you know, when my thing is like, kind of why I like Trump and what he did was, basically this: make America great again. It's because we live here. You know,
Mm-hmm.
why not? Why would we not want this country to be great? You know what I mean? And he was doing that. We were energy independent. You know, things were cheap. We were more jobs, the most jobs he created. He brought companies back to the United States, and all that. That
When they said that he needed a magic wand to make it happen.
no, he just needed common sense,
Yeah.
and it worked. So and now we just have an administration that's just manipulative, because you get people going back to work after being off because of COVID, and they're praising themselves like they created all these jobs, and it's like, no, just people went back to work.
It's it's illusions.
Hmm.
It's illusions that we can't fall for.
Yeah.
You guys were with Christian. You guys were talking about like capitalism and stuff like that,
Hmm.
and you know the type of capitalism that we've been. Well, that type of capitalism that we've had
Mm-hmm.
for the past, I don't know, 3 decades or whatever it is, isn't real.
Mm.
And the reason I tell you that is that just think back to 2008. So when, the housing market collapsed and everything, is because they were being irresponsible with the loans that they were, um, giving people and things like that, amongst other things. But that was like the major thing. And these banks were just making money, 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 money. And it was the same, you know, people on the top benefiting from it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I remember I was freaking ironing clothes in the morning, looking at the TV, and George Bush comes out, and they're too big to fail. And I was standing there. I was like, hell no. They made the wrong decisions.
Mm-hmm.
They messed up, and we are not going to bail them out. Hell no. Do not pass that.
Yeah. They bailed them out.
In real capitalism, you don't have a product that people want, your ass goes out of business.
Mm-hmm.
Or you make bad business decisions like they did, your ass goes out of business.
Mm-hmm.
So their asses should have gone out of business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
But politicians
mm-hmm.
stepped in the middle of it
Mm-hmm.
and saved them with our money.
Yeah. It's like
That's not capitalism. I'm sorry, but we're you know what? We got to compare apples to apples.
mm-hmm.
And yeah, capitalism, it's going to have the same thing that we talked about earlier. There's going to be people that are corrupt that are going to go in there and, start creating monopolies and things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that does exist, but we're not even close to being like a real capitalism.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's why, we definitely need more limited government than what we have. Because I think we were talking about that too last time with Christian, was the government overreach now is crazy. They'll get into anything. And like you said, and then it defeats the purpose of what we're supposed to be. If we're supposed to be capitalist, they defeat that purpose. If we're supposed to be a democratic country, they go and fucking defeat that purpose too. And now it's like we're neither, It's just it's like what do you call it? It's like a false. It's not even real,
It actually goes back to what we had said, communism.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, communism. Yeah,
it just goes back to it.
Yeah, 100%.
It's like these are the companies we want to win, so we're gonna bail them out. Mm. Oh, these companies we're not affiliated with, we're gonna put them out of business.
We're gonna overregulate them. Mm-hmm. That's where OSHA comes in.
OSHA, EPA,
and then that goes to show you too. It's like I what I do. I deal a lot with OSHA, and sometimes you got to deal with it. It is what it is. Kind of in this state, this how they have it set up, right? But you'll see it, and it's like, all right, these people, they're supposed to be here for employee health and safety. It's like that's not their focus. They're trying to get that money. They're regulating so much that eventually they overregulate too much and businesses are gone. Obviously bigger businesses can kind of maneuver through all that, but those little businesses that are,
that's the whole purpose.
Mm-hmm. Nah, and it's not. Trust me, I've had plenty of experience to see that it's not about what they say they're out there for. And then that whole thing when Biden basically directed OSHA to force the vaccine on everybody, that was okay. Yeah, you're not about health and safety. No, you're just little pawns, like again, little puppets for whatever the government wants you guys to do. That's what you're there for.
So do you think they have like a Pete, what was that guy's name again? Pete
Buttigieg?
Pete Buttigieg.
Yeah,
do you think they have one of those guys, in OSHA? Do you think they have one of those guys in EPA?
Yeah, I'm gonna say yeah. Let's see. They got Douglas Parker, previously served on the Obama administration. There you go. That's all you need to know.
Yep.
So it's yeah, it's nothing. It's nothing to do with what they purport to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's all a sham. It's
You guys were talking a little bit about United States of America and what it meant, and as you guys were talking, I was like, okay, so there's a lot of there. I think there's a lot of confusion between diversity.
mhm.
So I had this conversation with someone. So what do you think diversity means here in the United States to you?
To me, diversity means there's a lot of people, different cultures in this country, and we're all equal, and we all have the equal opportunity to you know make ourselves what we want to make ourselves. And that's how I see diversity. It's a mix of a lot of people, but everyone's equal already.
Mhm. And what about the part of like one culture being among other cultures?
Mhm.
How do you see that dynamic in what we call diversity?
Mhm. So like so with different cultures, it's obviously each culture has their thing, right? Or their ways or whatnot. But in a diverse country, it's no matter what, those cultures are still allowed. Like those, you know what I mean? We don't segregate any culture. We everybody's just as equal to do what they do as much as these people are able to do what they're going to do.
So that's the way that I view diversity in the United States. So it's different cultures living in America, but united,
Mhm.
right? Because we're all living here in America,
Mhm.
united as Americans, but we have the liberty to be diverse amongst other people,
Yeah.
to be able to do what we do culturally,
Mhm.
right? Without anybody judging us or impeding in what we do culturally, unless it's a breaking the law, of course,
Yeah, yeah.
right? But it's being able to express and keep your culture going
Mhm.
further into generations with anybody, getting in the way of it, right?
Right.
Or keeping you from doing that.
Right.
So when in the world did we become this country where we keep everybody, everybody takes offense to what everybody does, and we can't even do what we culturally do because it's going to offend another person from a different culture.
And I mean, and yeah, yeah, and you're seeing more and more, like it's basically they're bringing back segregation,
That's exactly what they're doing.
and it's crazy because it didn't work the first
So,
time.
so what does it do to the united part of United States of America?
I'll let Joe answer.
There you go. Dad, come on, man.
Yeah, I mean it destroys, right? Well, what we're supposed to be, the United States. United is the key word, and that's why I kind of what you had brought up earlier when I was saying, like, sometimes you just don't feel like it's gonna resolve itself. You know what I mean? Like, but I think the point you made, it made sense too. But I just all this division they're pushing, it kind of it gets frustrating, I guess is the
Yeah,
correct way to put it.
it is frustrating, but it's an illusion.
Yeah.
I think going back to the trip um, that we just had in the East Coast is everybody was so willing to help out and
Hmm.
everything.
Hmm.
And talk about diversity. There's it's diverse group out there, different from what we're used to for sure over here.
Hmm.
But um, there's nothing more that I can say is that I just feel like it's an illusion. Talking to the people over there, everybody being cordial, being nice, and everything. I don't want you guys to get it take this the wrong way. I'm pumping up that experience like it was perfect. We did see someone get a little snatch and grab, and they took some youngsters took off running and stuff like that. We did see that. So I mean, it's not perfect, but it's not as bad as we anticipated. But going back to the whole diverse thing is that I think it's an illusion, man. I always think about it this way: is if you were to grab 10 strangers, random picks, how what's the percentage? The percentage out of 10 that are going to be batshit crazy, like what we see portrayed,
Hmm.
in the news, and it's leaning hard left,
Yeah.
or leaning hard right. If that was the case, it'd be chaos out there in the world,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And if you take a percentage of all the bad stuff that's happening and you compare it to all the good stuff that's happening, it's not even a drop in the bucket, man. There's so many people out here, um, millions of people, and you want to pick out you know a handful of people and then just say everything's jacked up and try to portray it as those bad people are the majority.
Hmm.
It just doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't fit in my mind. I don't know if I don't know if you understand what I'm saying,
No,
but
yeah, I get it. I get it. It just it doesn't add up. It doesn't add up to what you experience. What your personal experience in everyday life. It's like, yeah, you don't see that everywhere. People, like you said, people are normally you know pretty approachable, polite. You know,
or
and
if
not
they
like what
if
you see on, like you said, on TV, right? Where you got Antifa and then some, I don't know, Proud Boys, and they're fighting. It's not like that everywhere.
no, no, and those are very few people. That's
Mhm.
an illusion too. Is that there's Antifa people and stuff like that. Are the majority out there in the streets. They're the minority. If we really wanted to show up and be like, hey, you guys really want to tear some stuff up, let's go out there,
Mhm.
dude. We would swallow them up.
Yeah.
Not just in numbers. I'm not talking about fighting anybody or anything like that, but just in numbers. Period. Just a comparison in numbers
Yeah.
is that they would see the crowd and they would just cower. They'd probably piss and shit their pants, just seeing in the volume of people that they would be really going up against.
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah.
But
But hey, I mean, we'll see how this whole thing plays out. They are probably gonna drag it because, um, like you said, that smear campaign, right? It has to last until November 2024. So
okay.
they're gonna try to get people to vote for them. They're gonna manipulate people to vote for them, and this is one of the things that they're gonna use to interfere in the election.
Yeah, and then you got the fear tactics, with the dollar collapsing, Mexico joining BRICS, China,
Hmm.
Saudi Arabia, Russia joining forces. Um, there's a lot of different rumors, speculation, all the normal talking heads, doom and gloom. This is going to happen. That's going to happen. So there's patterns in that too.
Hmm.
Is I'll remind people, Libya was talking about um, selling their oil for gold.
Right.
Going back to that standard, and not the dollar. And I wonder what happened to Gaddafi. They magically had a revolution. The government got overthrown. Gaddafi got dragged out into the streets and murdered.
Yep. And went back to the
And then
dollar.
and then Libya, guess what? They still sold the oil for the dollar after that.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So
And to me, it's like that's part of the, like you said, the playbook, which is
it
like,
is.
if countries start trying to move away from the dollar, it's like, well, all right, well, we gotta step in, we gotta fight for their democracy, so to
Oh
speak.
yeah.
And I think
It's
that's
a grassroots movement,
and I think that's
revolution.
what interests me about this whole BRICS thing, is because it's not just one country. It's multiple countries where, if that's our playbook as far as causing a revolution and fighting for other countries' democracies, what are we gonna do now, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we're not gonna overthrow Russia, China, India, who else? Uh, South Africa, Brazil. We're not gonna do that. If anything, this administration backed the guy that won in Brazil, right?
Yep.
And the other guy, I forget the other guy's name, but that guy was like the bad guy.
Yeah.
At least how they played it out.
Yeah. And I could be wrong, but I think the guy that the U.S. wanted in Brazil, he actually won the election.
Yeah,
He was in jail before that.
but he won. Hey, and now he's joined Russia and China. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's like good for you.
So,
Oh man.
now I was telling you, it kind of makes sense that those American citizens got kidnapped and murdered
Yeah, the two were
in
murdered.
Mexico.
Yeah.
And now our buddy Lindsey Graham, I think, is the one that introduced legislation or something to go into Mexico. It's like, hey, you guys are talking about joining BRICS and possibly not using the dollar. Hold on.
It's time to go to war.
It's time to put boots in Mexico.
And I'm telling you, man, we're gonna. It's the same thing Russia's doing to Ukraine. It's gonna be, if that whole BRICS thing is real and Mexico does do that, we're gonna do the exact same thing Russia's doing to Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
That's what'll happen, and but somehow we'll be justified, but Russia is still bad.
Well, the difference with the whole Ukraine thing, and a lot of people don't know this, is that war started kind of like what we're talking about right now in 2014.
Yeah.
They had a revolution that was grassroots, that was backed by the U.S., overthrew that government, and there's a new government that favors the United States.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Obama was pouring all kinds of money into Ukraine around 2005, 2006 when he was a senator, getting all kinds of labs set up for, I don't know, God knows what type of research over there. Fauci. And yeah, hey, people don't know this, but Fauci was involved with the whole AIDS epidemic.
Yeah.
And he was wrong about a whole bunch of shit at that time too. So
if
you didn't know that, now you know. Yeah.
And people still listen to him. Damn.
Yeah.
I got that one. People.
So, we'll see what happens with this whole BRICS thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean that's the pattern. Is country starts thinking about not using the dollar, and yeah, there's some sort of revolution or war going on.
Hmm.
Save the dollar,
Yeah.
but look out for the patterns. Look out for the patterns. North Korea starts doing
I'm surprised they haven't joined BRICS.
no, but you know they're launching missiles and they're doing this and they're doing all um,
They're playing
playing
grab
with
ass over there.
uranium. Yeah, playing with uranium and kinds of stuff. So,
Oh my goodness. Well, I mean, keep your head on a swivel.
oh, you know, I'm gonna give you an example of how you know your government is deep state or not. Okay,
Okay.
we're talking about Ukraine, right?
Mhm.
So Zelensky was talking in some sort of forum
Mhm.
with different countries and stuff like that. So Zelensky goes up, and I don't know if you saw the video. He starts talking.
I think it's that one.
Politicians walk out.
Mm-hmm.
Those governments are legit.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
You know, they're not deep state countries.
Mm-hmm.
You know, countries like the U.S. that stayed there and listened to all that BS. That's not the majority of us.
No.
If we were there, we would have gotten up as citizens. We would have gotten up and walked away too.
Yep.
That's what I'm telling you. It's all in the upper tier,
Yeah.
the very minority, which is our politicians.
Mm-hmm.
They're the ones that give us the illusion that we're interested in that. Stop taking my tax dollars. I'm not interested in that.
Mm.
If you're going to take my tax dollars, keep them here in the U.S.
Yep. 100. Yep. 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 That's what they need to do. I think it should be a law that any tax money that gets taken can only be used on American soil for American interest. None of that.
I'll take it a step further. Keep it in my damn county.
Even better. Even better. I mean, because what's the point of us paying all that tax and it goes to Ukraine? You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I haven't done my taxes yet. I'm waiting till the last minute, and I did that on purpose.
Yeah, we did ours, unfortunately. So
Yeah,
yeah.
Because probably gonna owe,
Mm-hmm.
and I know all that money's just gonna end up in something I don't even want it to go to, anyways. So
Yeah, I was watching this. I was doing a little project on, I forget, Saturday or something like that this past weekend, and it was a DIY, right? Do it DIY, do it yourself.
Yeah.
A YouTube video, and the guy was cool. He was wearing "Taxation is Theft" T-shirt. I thought that was cool. So I was like, I want that T-shirt.
Yeah. I gotta get more shirts to trigger people.
But you don't trigger that. You see, that's what I'm saying. An illusion. I've been around you when you're wearing, hats and shirts and stuff like that. No one tells you
Nah, no one
shit.
tells me anything. Yeah. I see
If
some
they had us
people
believe,
some people give you like a look like, what the fuck are you wearing? But they don't say anything. Oh man.
and that's what I'm saying. If we really lived where they were the majority and they were all that crazy, you would have experienced something already very different. So
yeah, for sure. But all right then. Well, I mean, like I said, we'll keep an eye on things. I'm pretty sure something else regarding this kind of stuff is gonna pop up, and we'll talk about it, and maybe on the next one we can do because I do want to talk about what we were said last time, where kind of the people that you associate yourself with, and how that brings you up or down. So probably do that on the next one, because I think that though, the political stuff is good, but there's also like the stuff that's gonna, like, how could you put it? Like, not self improvement, because I don't want to say like we know it all, but those conversations are important too, if you know what I mean.
Well, yeah, I mean, so it's important to have these conversations, but it's also important to just not have relationships
Mm-hmm.
where you can talk about other stuff other than this stuff too. So
Yeah.
and being positive at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking to someone that I work with, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we were kind of doing like a little review, and I was talking to him. It was three of us, and this person wanted to advance, and he's learning,
Mm-hmm.
right? So just giving them like words of advice and what to do and how to approach certain things. And he said that something that I told him was really powerful to him.
Mm-hmm.
And I told him, that everybody has decision-making power. It doesn't matter, if it's at work, home,
Mm-hmm.
like everyday life,
Mm-hmm.
is that, let's say, for example, you're at work, right? And everybody thinks, well, I'm going to do what my boss says. And yeah, I mean, you follow directives and things like that. But if you see something that, makes a lot of sense, maybe it's a little bit different from the way that it's been done in the past,
Mm-hmm.
Vocalize that, verbalize it, talk about it, make a suggestion,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe do it. And, as long as it's within the parameters of what you're doing. And you'll have the ability to change something,
Mm-hmm.
by, again, having decision making power.
Mm-hmm.
And, he kind of came back and told me, he's like, hey man, like weeks after, maybe even a couple months after. And it's like, that was really impactful because he's kind of like me, like first generation born here, Mexican parents and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, hey, in our culture, not necessarily, I don't want to say our culture because that's kind of overgeneralizing, but okay, so sometimes
Mm-hmm.
Hispanics have a tendency to be negative in the sense that, hey, if you go, hey, I want to start a business, and maybe an aunt, an uncle, or someone like that will turn around and go, what? ¿Tú?
Yeah.
¿Tú vas a abrir un negocio? Nah. And it's like, so, and instead of having that, I'm just going to say it, negative energy,
Mm-hmm.
you do need that positive energy instead of, hey, you know what, you quieres comenzar un negocio? Sí lo puedes hacer,
Yeah. Good. Yeah.
And, give that, positive reinforcement,
Mm-hmm.
so that people continue to have that drive to excel and level up,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I think that's kind of like part of what you might be talking about and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So,
Yeah. That it's connected to that. So
yeah.
I think we
I mean,
definitely.
it's a good conversation because it'll go in different directions, definitely, and there's different aspects to it. So yeah, that's pretty cool. That's something that as Latinos we can dive into.
Yep, for sure. All right then. Well, that's a good one. It's a good conversation. And I enjoy doing this, and we'll keep it up. I'll have Christian do the Pledge of Allegiance on the next one.
Yeah, we should do that. Should we do it right now?
Pledge of Allegiance. No, he's got to do it, and he's got to have a tear. If I remember what he said. But no.
Right on.
All right then, man. Well, we'll see you on the next one.
All right.